Alright, this is going to be a Thunderbolts video eventually, but first I'll just read one comment, just because it's, it's just these comments are so bad, and it's terrible to leave them up when they're just so inaccurate and wrong, and they're just such lies. Alright, so you said the laser spot is 2 kilometers wide, while the Earth is moving at 30 kilometers a second around the Sun, and light takes 1.25 seconds to get to the moon. There's no way it would work your account, and the orbit of the moon is tracked to within centimeters. They're not tracking the orbit of the moon when they shine light at the reflector. The reflector is for the sole purpose of just reflecting a few photons back to detect the distance to the reflector. So it tells you whether the moon has changed its position, closer or further away. But that's it. There's no other use for the purpose. And they deliberately have to hit the reflector when they know it's, they know where it's going to be, and they have to shoot a little bit ahead. They have to be, they have to do what gun shooters do if they're going to hit the reflector, so they know about all that. And clearly the moon's moving with the Earth around the Sun, so that velocity is irrelevant. All you have is the moon's velocity, and the Earth's rotation is a bigger problem than the moon's velocity. The rotation of the Earth is the only thing they have to account for. And it's a pulse laser. They're pulsing a beam of light for a millisecond. This isn't an issue. Movement's not an issue. All they have to do is hit the reflector and they get photons back. So it's just measuring distance. That's it. There's nothing else being measured here, liar. Okay, you once cited it as evidence for the speed of light being constant. Yes. And I still would assert it. It's a very good way to tell you that light's always the same, is the fact that if you do it every day, shoot a laser at the moon, it'll reflect back at the same time, same amount of time, because neither one of these two things are moving away from each other, and you always get back the same numbers, proving the light always works the same way. But this was measured while the Earth was moving with the moon. Of course, that's exactly the point. What's your point? That's right, they're moving together. Doing the distance calculation cannot tell you anything about anything else. It has no other informational value. And the point is that where the laser hits doesn't make a difference. So if this is the moon, alright, and even if I shot my laser, even if my laser was huge, and I shot this big, the only point is the photons coming off the reflector are the only ones coming back. That's it. I mean, they actually do get reflections off the moon's surface. So that's a whole nother subject. So they almost don't need the reflector, because their lasers are now so powerful that they can actually shoot them at the moon and get the reflection back off the moon itself. But the point is that won't give you a perfectly accurate, because of the fact that there can be all kinds of perverse reflections, double reflections, triple reflections. So I mean, if so the idea is that if you're hitting a spot this big and you're trying to hit the little reflector inside, it doesn't matter whether you're on this edge of the reflection or on this edge. It doesn't matter where the reflector is, as long as your beam hits it, some part of the beam, and as long as you're not at some obtuse angle. So if you're when the moon's on a over here, or when the moon's over here relative to the Earth, obviously these distances are still going to be the same, so it isn't going to matter. But the idea is to get the moon when it's overhead. You don't want to shoot, you don't want to shoot this way to the moon, or this way across the Earth or across the atmosphere. So when they do the experiment, the moon's usually overhead and they go straight up and down. It's not brain surgery, asshole. So I don't know what you're implying that I said something inconsistent. There's no inconsistency with anything I've ever said. I don't even know. The comment is incomprehensible as stated. When did I ever state the moon doesn't move with the Earth? It's just gibberish, mush, shit. I won't do superior minds. I mean, he's talking about lasers, and I don't think lasers work the way people think they do. From what I understand, a laser shoots the light gets caught between mirrors, and the light that actually gets out is light that moves enough to go around the mirror. See, they can't put a hole in the mirror because that'd be a small aperture, and then the light would diverge. See, it's always tricky. So you have to somehow get the light to miss the mirror without going around an edge or something else. So it's hard to trap light and then find a way to make the light get away, unless you have like a mirror that can disappear or something. So yeah, that's why it's hard to make a really good laser beam. But anyway, all right, on to the other nuts. All right, so I want to play the very beginning of this because it's just kind of a waste where they're just introducing Thornhill, blah blah blah. And so this is this Emmanuel Velikovsky guy, okay, who wrote a bunch of books back in the whatever 50s, 60s, 70s, trying to make biblical references match physics. So clearly religiously motivated, clearly a creation scientist, pretending to be doing science. And it all revolves around all this catastrophe science, like somehow the silly but biblical stories of toads falling and floods and all this other bullshit has something to do with Venus flew out of its orbit and came around the Earth and did shit and then went back to its little quiet orbit again. So somehow Venus acquired supersonic speed, flew into the Earth, then flew back home and got really slow again. Some kind of crap like that. And these people think this is defendable as science. This mush.
Velikovsky made the shocking claim based on his research in the 1940s that Earth's water came from Saturn.
All right, so now so they're asserting that because they have a new discovery, that the water in the deeper planets, around Saturn and such, is the same water. It has the same amount of deuterium in it as the water on Earth. Now, I would point out that I don't think water was created in the outer solar system. I don't think the oxygen molecule that's highly reactive would ever survive going through a whole big process to get all the way to the outside universe, and then the oxygen molecule would decide to combine with a hydrogen. So you have the most common element in the universe, hydrogen. You have oxygen that just loves combining with hydrogen. Just give it an excuse and it will. Right? And I'm supposed to believe that somehow, not now, too late, try again later, that somehow let's just say the hydrogen and the oxygen made in some other sun somewhere, who knows where it came from, and that we're supposed to believe because somebody in physics theorizes somehow that this happens, that somehow water is created out there, where it's cold and frozen, is where the oxygen decides to combine with the hydrogen to make water. I would argue that no, the water was made pretty much like right out to go a little bit away from the sun, and there's probably already water vapor in some sort of form. There's probably already water in some kind of form, and that Mercury could have had water and it just got blown off by the solar wind and carried out to the outer universe. So I would argue that yes, I think it's kind of obvious. The water was made in the warm places, and it was pushed out into the outer solar system. But so they're debunking a theory that isn't even solid physics. I don't think there's any solid physics defining the fact that water was created at Saturn. So just debunking their own notion of reality, not a real notion of reality.
Of course, a single success is open to the charge that it was a lucky guess, no matter how well documented the research. But Velikovsky went on to be the only scholar before the space age to successfully predict the extreme...
Another bullshit statement. Prove that Velikovsky was the only guy who knew Venus was hot. Right? Venus and all... So they always are citing mythology. The mythology of Venus has always been it was a hot planet, and Mars was the cold planet. I mean, this was known from Kepler's day, sort of. Just this idea that, oh yeah, if it's closer to the sun, you're going to be hot. You're further away from the sun, you're going to be cold. Any idiot could have figured that one out.
Extreme surface temperature of Venus, the remnant magnetism of moon rocks, radio noises from Jupiter.
So he's just citing a whole bunch of crap that we don't have any evidence of this. Show me the evidence that he's the only one who did any of this.
And many other remarkable discoveries.
And they're hardly remarkable. Just saying, hardly remarkable.
His thesis uncovered a period within mythic human memory.
Okay, his thesis uncovered something. So his thesis uncovered of human mythic something or other, right? It's just creationism. That's all the guy wanted to do. His only motivation was to validate the fucking biblical history, you know, the Quran, the Torah, by finding evidence of it being a physical fact that this bullshit happened.
Awe-inspiring chaos in the planetary system involving electrical discharges between planets during close encounters.
So this is where they get their, this is where this whole electric universe comes from, is some silly notion in the head of some science fiction writer, essentially. This is like Scientology, for fuck's sake. This is so lame. Like again, Venus is going pretty slow, relatively speaking, compared to like a comet. There's no way Venus could have an interaction with Earth. If Venus came even a little bit more towards the Earth, like it just stopped orbiting the sun and started moving in the direction of the Earth, at its slow speed, it would crash right into the Earth. The two objects would just pull right into each other. It would have to gain a huge amount of velocity to somehow go past the Earth. Huge velocity increase.
The mythic thunderbolts of the planetary gods. The ancient...
No, the mythic thunderbolts of the planetary gods. There are no mythic thunderbolts. There's no real mythology from the past of a giant thunderbolt that blew a whole civilization away or something, or just created a continent, or, you know, annihilated Atlantis or something. There's not even stories like that. Obviously, lightning and thunder have been impressive. Everybody talks about it, but yeah, it's pretty impressive when that shit hits. That's all. There's nothing magical about it. There's no magical thunderbolt stories. There's none. There's none. I don't know of any story where a giant lightning bolt comes down and blows up a city. Where's that even in the Bible?
Were adamant, as Heraclitus around 500 BC put.
So let's all pretend the idiots in the past who couldn't even invent a proper outhouse, they knew physics. They knew reality.
It is the thunderbolt that steers the universe. It was no earthly spark. It took the strike.
So all this mythology, so because primitive people could make little art pieces, this is supposed to tell us that everything's made out of lightning, and that Venus flew out of its orbit, flew next to the Earth, electrocuted it, and then flew back to its position. I mean, you know, so they're denying evolution. They're denying the whole geological thing. They think Pikes Peak was created in 7 days. I mean, this is just all such crap.
Strange involuted corkscrew form of plasmoids, and was associated with stones or meteorites falling from the sky and global devastation.
Yes, stones falling from the sky, from volcanoes, quite obviously. We saw it in Hawaii, giant rocks from just a little volcano. Giant rocks flying through the air, landing on people a mile away.
It was Velikovsky who first threw down the gauntlet to modern astronomers to recognize electricity in space. They refused to pick it up, and instead behaved like the...
Yeah, why would they pick it up? It's nonsense. It's idiotic. There's no evidence of it. It's silly. It's a silly... And again, the guy's... It's not even a... There's no secret here. He wasn't doing science. He was doing science motivated for one purpose, to validate biblical crap. If that isn't religion, I don't know what it is.
Position against Galileo. It seems an unstable solar system was against their religion. To squash growing...
Well, again, yeah, it seems pretty... Right. That does make sense, right? Just because we kind of know that Earth, life has been evolving on this planet for 2 billion years. Technically 4, but I'm just saying we know that's sort of the truth, too. And, you know, for 1 billion of that or so, there are real squigglies moving around. And would you all think that happened in 7 days, or 7,000 years, or what, 56,000 years? What's your silly frickin' theory, that bones in the ground were turned into rock by some magical lightning bolt?
Interest in his ideas on campuses in America in the 70s.
Exactly why science was upset, because everybody was like Scientology. They were all falling for this fucking science fiction, this fake science, because it gave them unicorns and rainbows. It gave them, you know, something that aggrandized human existence rather than something that made them feel like fucking stupid robots. So yeah, but it's not science. It's religion.
The American Association for the Advancement of Scientists, known as the AAAS, organized a thinly disguised ambush in San Francisco in 1974. It became a rallying cry for dissident scholars to attend the first international symposium on Velikovsky and the recent history of the solar system in Hamilton, Ontario, later that year, where, incidentally, I met...
So, yeah, so they shanghaied or something, a truther? Well, why couldn't the truther prevail with his big pile of evidence? Oh, that's right, because you don't rely on evidence. You rely on junk. This is garbage science.
Velikovsky and David Talbot for the first time. But nothing has changed in the following decades despite the space-age discovery that magnetism exists throughout the universe.
Oh, wow, like nobody would predict that. You know, everybody thought magnetism was an Earth-only phenomenon. Oh, yeah, that's what everybody thought. Everybody. We know that there's going to be magnetism wherever iron is, or nickel, or cobalt, or obviously neodymium.
It shows that astrophysics is in the wrong hands and should be passed to electrical engineers.
Yes, well, another pile of rubbish. Again, this idea that, yes, they're all the same force, frankly. Okay, all the stuff moving the speed of light, whether you call it gravity, electricity, magnetism, it doesn't really matter to me. And recognize, but that's what it is. It's a force. There's a force moving the speed of light, and then there's little matter bits that are affected by it. But they're not affected by it by lightning only. I mean, that's just silly. And frankly, the electricity thing needs the atoms to go from one place to another, where the force itself doesn't need atoms. Magnetism can travel through empty space. Light can travel through empty space. Gravity can travel through empty space. Electricity can't.
Velikovsky's best-selling book, Worlds in Collision, published in 1950, was the inspiration for a number of scholars, which has lately resulted in a truly interdisciplinary cosmology. Right,
interdisciplinary cosmology, which means let's mix religion with science. Because that's all Velikovsky was doing. That's all this electric universe is. It's just a reformation. This is just like somebody 20 years from now taking Dianetics and just reforming the volcano story.
Based on human history and the electrical nature of matter.
Based on human history. Somehow human history has something to say about physics. And somehow you advance physics by going back in time, okay, to people who had no instrumentality, no microscope, no telescopes, no measuring devices, hardly at all. And let's go ask them what the truth is. I mean, yeah, if that isn't goddamn as back-ass word as you can get. Go to the people who don't have the tools, don't have the vision, don't have the eyesight to do physics, and ask them what the truth is.
Matter and matter interactions, including the forces of magnetism and gravity. The electric universe was developed in an effort to explain the remarkable research results of those inspired by Velikovsky's forensic techniques.
Right, so those inspired by Velikovsky's forensic techniques, which are look at old god paintings and see if you can find, oh yeah, let's say that, okay, this must be something to do with Venus because there's a half a moon in here. And so Venus carried the whatever and held the lady up, and the lion was lying down with the sheeple and shit. What the fuck does this have to do with physics? Oh, that's right, absolutely fucking nothing. It's the enemy of physics. It's the enemy of the truth. Fableology.
Technique of investigating mythic history.
So investigate mythic history to find out what the truth is. Because we know humans are great, reliable witnesses. They always get it right. And even though there were some language barriers and some other things, the fact is, why would they be so inept at describing it? Why do they have to describe it in metaphors and analogies and all this other stuff? Why wouldn't they just say, there was a big giant planet right there, really close?
In particular, the works of David Talbot and Eduardo Cardona concerning the worship and central role of Saturn.
The worship of Saturn. See, he said the word worship now, didn't he? So this is one other guy that's right at the bottom of this whole electric universe, this Talbot guy. And he's a worshipper. And so you're going to tell me this isn't a religion. It's full of mythology and worship. The Saturn myth. Look at it. Look at this fuzzy lines, this fuzzy bullshit. What does it have to do with Saturn? Saturn doesn't look anything like that shit.
As our original sun.
Original sun. I mean, it's just more horse shit that somehow you could explain these precise orbits, right? I mean, let's not, there's certain pieces of evidence you just can't ignore, right? The fact that Mercury, Mars, the Earth, Venus, they all have an exact kind of probabilistic distance between each other. I mean, there's a real mathematical symmetry to their distances. And so you think all of this crap could happen and they just automatically fall into those right orbits at the right speed. That really doesn't logically say to you, no, the real story has to be that they found those orbits over millions and billions of years. And that they collide into a lot of shit and they had to clean up all the crap, the dirt that was in the way. And that's why the moon has 5 million craters on it. Is because they had to do a lot of cleaning to survive.
Electric universe cosmology reestablishes the successful classical physics of the 18th and 19th centuries.
So it reestablishes the primitive, more religious. See, they just want to say, okay, because Maxwell was religious and Newton was religious and all these other loonies believed in angels and fluffernutters, that somehow that's what human beings should be doing, is believing in woo.
And its extraordinary successful space-age predictions contrast markedly with the lack of predictive success for the last century of the purely theoretical approach.
Just mushy words. No evidence for these great predictions. No evidence of all the predictions the regular science hasn't made. None of this blah, 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 blah.
Which adopts mathematical concepts and ideals without regard for the principles of physics or basic standards and definitions.
I'd say yes, they're plenty sloppy, but your science is even sloppier because it's poorly motivated and irrationally contexted, where you think you're going to find the truth by asking stupid, ignorant people who didn't even know what a microbe was, and you say they know how the universe worked.
A classic case of the cart before the horse. The recent discovery of the isotopic likeness between the water of Saturn's rings and the Earth is documented in the Icarus paper, Isotopic Ratios of Saturn's Rings and Satellites.
Right, so, and again, this would be remarkable to who? Who would think that water, hydrogen and oxygen combine to make water when it's way the fuck out there? So the hydrogen and the oxygen molecules wait till they're way out in the outside of the solar system before they figure out they might combine. So when they're in a cold environment, less likely to combine, right? Because all you do need to spark them to cause the chain reaction or combination. They're more likely to get a spark out there than they are here, ionic sparks. We're getting bombarded by energy from the sun, bombarded by it. And the only thing that saves us is the fact that we are magnetic and we have this, barrier against it.
Implications for the origin of water and feeding. The simplest interpretation is that the long-held model of the formation of the solar system is invalid.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that regular physics can't figure out some obvious things like galaxies are expanding rather than contracting, or, that they might not have a perfect model of how the solar system is created. Yeah, who says they have a perfect model? They have perfect understanding, perfect vision. Nobody's arguing that. But the idea that you're going to claim that a system that appears to have been so static, that somehow something remarkable happened yesterday? No. I mean, Venus, obviously something weird happened to Venus because it's tipped upside down, frankly. Its magnetic field is upside down. And it's not spinning, so, as fast as it should, or as fast as other planets. So obviously something happened to Venus, but it didn't happen yesterday.
The Phys.org reports, by developing a new method for measuring isotopic ratios of water and carbon dioxide remotely, scientists have found that the water in Saturn's rings and satellites is unexpectedly like water on the Earth.
All right, a new method for measuring. So I don't know, okay, can we say for sure this new method of measuring has been proven in some way? We haven't sent any probes to go collect a glass of water out there. So again, it's just an untested, really, an unverified method, no doubt.
Adding a neutron to one hydrogen atom, that then called deuterium, increases the mass of a water molecule by about 5%. In other words, heavy water. and that small change results in isotopic differences in the formation of a planet, moon, or comet, and changes the evaporation of water after formation. The deuterium to hydrogen ratio is a fingerprint of the formation conditions, including temperature and evolution over time.
So he's reading out of a science magazine, physics.org. For what purpose? The fact is, there might be other... Look, I'm not an expert on deuterium in water, but there might be explanations where that might explain why the moons of Saturn are thawing or not thawing at certain rates. And so, you know, because the water is heavy. So, yeah, it does behave differently. I don't know what deuterium heavy... Does heavy water expand when it freezes?
Time. Evaporating water enriches deuterium in the remaining surface. Models for the formation of the solar system indicate that the deuterium to hydrogen ratio should be much higher in the colder outer solar system.
Again, so there's an assumption. So he says that's some kind of, oh, I've caught physics with its pants down because that's what it says. I don't think it says that very hard. I don't think most cosmology people would say, oh yeah, I know for sure that that water was actually created out in the distant solar system. That I don't think water was actually created in the warmer part of the solar system and then shot out there. No, I don't. No, I don't think they have any verification that this is what physics thinks. I think this is a real fringy part of a sub-subject of a sub-subject. And so again, they're debunking something that's almost a nothing. This isn't a foundation of physics somewhere. This isn't a foundation of cosmology theory. This is a little fringe subject.
Than in the hotter inner system where the Earth formed. Planetary scientists faced a fundamental problem to explain the presence of our oceans. The hydrogen and oxygen required would have been swept out of the inner solar system by the early sun.
So again, exactly, and there's every reason to sort of believe that that's, you know, how we got all the water. It's because we happen to be in the place where, hey, yes, it's not gonna travel with the wind as much. It might even condense on this Earth planet because it's kind of far enough away from the sun that all this energy can start condensing. Obviously, Venus is way too close.
So they resorted to...
But there is water vapor on Venus, lots of it, causing a greenhouse effect. So let's not pretend the water didn't also get trapped on Venus.
An ad hoc story that countless comet collisions from a hypothetical invisible cloud of comets enclosing the solar system.
Yes, so we've debunked 4 people's theory. Again, how many people have a hard notion of exactly how the water got on Earth? How many physicists or cosmologists have hard knowledge and evidence of theories that explain where the water came from? No, it's a specialty subject, and obviously it's going to involve quite a bit of speculation because we're obviously don't get the benefit of having something acquire water right in front of our eyes or any of this stuff happening. Obviously it had to happen billions of years ago, and so yeah, we have to kind of make up that story. So he's debunking a story that isn't authoritative physics. It's just theory.
Deposited the Earth's water eons ago. This new discovery...
All right, so he says, so eons ago. Yes, it was eons ago, okay? Life evolved on Earth. We have seawater inside of us. So if you believe in evolution, Electric Universe guys, these guys obviously don't. Because evolution points pretty much directly to the fact that we were fucking fishes. And the fish were swimming in the goddamn oceans 500 million years ago. So it was eons ago. There was a giant salty sea somewhere. Because we have salt water in our fucking veins.
Discounts that hypothesis. A simple hypothesis will connect Saturn's rings material with the Earth. True, the deuterium to hydrogen ratio is a fingerprint of the water formation conditions, and it is more straightforward to not assume evolution of the ratio and to suggest that it is a fingerprint of the origin of the water on Earth. Given the success of Velikovsky's remarkable prediction based on documented evidence...
So now it's even crazier. Like, oh, well, so now I have to... We're going to explain how... No, the water... Yes, it was water here, then it shot into Saturn, and then it went back into the middle of the universe by some anti-gravity theory. Through some sort of anti-gravity mechanism, Saturn pushed its crap into the inner solar system.
We cannot simply assume the Earth formed in the inner solar system. This latest evidence clearly supports Velikovsky's mytho-historical cosmology.
Mytho-historical cosmology. So maybe I'll just end there, right? Do we need to say any more? It confirms the mytho-historical cosmology. Mytho-historical. So we don't care about physical evidence. We just want to say, what are the myths that human beings have come up with, and what are their stories, and let's try to make their stories real. So let's make their idiotic, retarded notions of the past, where they thought gods made everything, and gods did everything, and, you know, God was against them. And let's try to make them real stories with faked evidence. That's all this fucking idiotic crap is. It's just Scientology with a new face. It's just junk science, and it's a fucking religion. Ugh. You're just dupes falling for this shit. These people aren't motivated to find the truth. They're trying to validate cave drawing crap. Little love crap written in a cave somewhere, like humans are all huggy. And everything got broken by the evil Venus monster. And we're really you know, made to just play hopscotch. And we were distracted from our lovely hopscotch game by the evil Venus monster that came and disturbed us. And all we have to do is get right with Venus, and we'll all be okay again. It's fucking just shit. This is just such fucking shit. Ugh. People just keep trying to find ways to humiliate your intelligence.